Yeah, welcome everyone to the 2025 BioTap conference. Just wanted to use this time to give a little bit of a leadership update to everyone in the audience today. My name is Dr. Joshua Reid. I'm an assistant professor at Texas Tech University and the current acting president of BioTap organization. And I'm joined with me today by the past president, Adam Chouinard from Oregon State, and Caleb Heinrich from University of Alabama. We can go next slide. So I wanted to use a little bit of time to just sort of share out some of the goals and activities and things that we've been doing with BioTap this year, as well as use this time to give everyone or give Caleb a chance to sort of share his vision for this next upcoming year as the president-elect of the organization. And then we'll briefly talk a little bit about, or give it over to Adam to talk a little bit about the election cycle and some of the elections that are coming up within our community and opportunities for you to get engaged and involved with some of the leadership of this wonderful community. And then we're going to leave a few minutes towards the end for us to have a little bit of hopefully community building time for us to think about how we could all sort of collaborate and overcome maybe some shared barriers or challenges that we all might be facing related to TA professional development. And so that's the general outline of what we're going to talk about. Next slide. I wanted to briefly highlight one of the victories, or I guess several victories within this one earlier this year. So there was, or where recently we had the Journal of Microbiology and Biology Education. We had a special issue within that journal for teaching assistant professional development in STEM. And I really wanted to take this time to highlight the incredible work. There were over around 22 articles published in this as of right now in this special issue. And across all of the articles, there are several BioTap members that are involved as either first or contributing authors, which I think is a wonderful thing to see. It's one of the things that definitely excites me to see is more of this community putting out more of their great work, working together and collaborating. And we'll also be seeing much more of these in the future coming out as well. So hopefully just keep an eye out for those and join us in those. Next slide. So really quick, or a little bit of background on the goals of BioTap as an organization and some of the things that we've created over the years to help assist with these. So one of the first goals of BioTap is to establish the network, this national network of stakeholders, essentially bringing all of us together, right, about allowing us to be able to share ideas and things to bring together these stakeholders. Next slide. As well as providing resources to improve the institutional professional development offerings at these different institutions. Next. We also want to facilitate new empirical research on effective and inclusive teaching assistant professional development practices. Next. And then we also organize the annual conference where we disseminate a lot of these findings, which is what we're engaging with today and tomorrow. Next slide. And then finally, we work to catalyze the adoption of these effective and inclusive practices for teaching assistant professional development along these ways. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about how the organization has contributed to each of these goals. And so with the first one, right, you can always go to BioTap. You're always welcome to contact us, reach out to any of us, join the Google group as well, and other things that we might have going on. As well as looking at the TDP or the TPD Catalyst, which is also up and coming. There are still more that's going to be coming out with that, I believe, but that's also up and running on the website as well. We have the conference and education committees, and so Adam will talk a little bit more about those, I believe, when he talks about the elections and things coming up. And then we can also find, as well as with today's, eventually we'll be able to find BioTap's past talks, all the conferences on the website. They're nice, neatly organized. You can just click at the top of the menu, very easy to find conferences, and they're organized by year as well. So feel free to check those out. There's some great talks in the past that we've had, as well as some great ones that we're going to have tomorrow and today. And then the last thing I want to plug is something that we've had happening a few times is the Evolving the Culture of Biology program as a way to help us be effective in translating what we talk about here in these conferences or we publish in in these journals, right? How do we translate that now into these classroom, into these practices? And that's where the ECB program actually comes in to play. And so that gives us sort of an overview, hopefully provides you an overview of the organization of BioTap, some of the things that we do as we've sort of talked about. BioTap is all about TA professional development. We're all here for this one big reason, right? And to think about. And so we're here to provide each other with these resources and opportunities to work together. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Caleb Heinrich at the University of Alabama, who will be the upcoming president for this next year for BioTap.
Thanks, Josh, so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Caleb Heinrich. I can't stress enough how excited I am for the opportunity to serve as BioTAP's president in the coming year. I'm currently in Alabama, assistant professor in the biology department. But just for a few more months, starting in January, I'll be moving to New Mexico State. I'm originally from Carlsbad, New Mexico, so it's really cool to have the opportunity to go to a place that I consider home. And just to humanize myself a little bit, I put up a picture of my family there, my wife and three kids, and they definitely keep me grounded and are excited for my role in this society organization as well. So my traditional research training was in freshwater ecology. I'm fortunate to still be able to collaborate with a lot of those individuals, but my main focus now is really biology education. I'm interested in active learning, outreach in STEM, preparing future faculty, even K through 12 and college instructors as well. And then, of course, biology graduate student teaching professional development. Next slide, please. So in thinking about my goals, I came up with this list, and it's kind of in this order of priority too. I think the biotap community, for those of you who have been involved, just know how amazing this community is, how supportive it is. And I selfishly want everyone to be able to experience, right? But my goals for this upcoming year, I've kind of broken down into these three groups to grow our biotap community, move forward the readying of our TATPD catalyst that's been referenced a couple times already for use within and beyond our network. And hopefully with the help of all of you and the rest of the biotap community, we're going to make some hard decisions, but very important decisions about the future of our organization's legal status, which we've been doing for a while, but to continue moving that forward. Next slide, please. So for community growth, and I'll try not to ramble too much, but this again, I think is my top priority, right? The networking committee that we have does a wonderful job with communication and our public face through the website. Our education committee does a great job and has a lot of efforts towards creating space for community as well. And in talks with a lot of members of our BioTap as well as the executive committee, we've had a lot of discussion and interest in creating more of these opportunities and space for us just to gather and support one another. So my hope is to collaborate with the education committee this year, get their events scheduled, but as well as try out some of these virtual hangouts. And I am well aware that some of these may just crash and burn and may not be worth it. But we were talking about how we just need to try throwing things at the wall and see what sticks. And so maybe if we can come together with a topic or a theme, and the understanding that anybody can come and bring whatever issues they might have, we may test those waters a little this year. And I hope again that can create some space for those that may not otherwise be able to plug in, right? Another way is through the listserv. I don't know if he's on here today, so I hope it's okay that I call him out. But you may, if you're on the listserv, this end of the summer, Frank Campo solicited information about AI and lab reports, and that led to some good discussions. I know with some of you who are on here today, but use those resources that we have, and know that that's available to you, and this community is here for you. In the past, BioTap has also had official yet informal get-together happy hours at conferences. So if you're going to be at a conference, you think some other biotappers might be there, use that listserv, get people around. I know at the end of this month, I'll be at NABT, the National Association of Biology Teachers, which is a meeting combined with SABR Midwest this year. So be on the lookout if you're going to that. We'll have an official meetup, coffee hour, happy hour to be determined. But if you're there, we'd love to hang out. I also think it's just critical for every member of BioTap to know that their voice is important and valued in our community. And if someone would like to serve in the community, that we be able to provide that opportunity. And one way I think that might be low-hanging fruit for that in the near future is through the catalyst that we'll talk about a little bit more as well. But I also think we should do a better job of celebrating and recognizing each other. I know within the community it's awesome, but there may be potential for future BioTap awards. And being part of this society should definitely be a bump on anybody's professional development and their CV. Lastly, I think, right, I would love for all members to take advantage of this network. And so if we can ever help, beyond through the things that our mission and goals, professional development, but even with personal growth, it's a diverse community of people at all stages of life in many different positions and roles and what they do from all over the place in every stage of their career. So if we can do things like provide T&P letters, give advice on TA lab issues, right? Help with job hunting for those students that are considering grad school, like we need to leverage this network to do those things. All right, next slide, please. So that was probably my longest slide, but I did want to plug again the TPD Catalyst. Even today, as discussions were happening, this need has been here for a long time. It's been in the works for 3, 4 years now, I think. Some of you already know this resource began development as a part of the Evolving Culture of Biology, the ECB program. It's going to be a living repository of TPD info, resources, curriculum, all things TA TPD. There's more information for this on the website too. But again, mentioning that service before, I like to share, many people are familiar with the National Sciences Case Study Institute that used to be housed at the University of Buffalo. It was an NSF funded project that led to this portal of case studies that people developed curriculum for. And were able to share. It was peer reviewed. It was almost, there was an editor that handled it that went through peer review and then was really honed up as this nice resource that now is searchable and accessible to just about anyone. It was NSF. It then was housed under University of Buffalo. It is now currently housed under NSTA, the National Science Teachers Association. So you still have access to those case studies. But similar to a model, a catalog like that, Adam has developed a really amazing TPD Catalyst table of contents that'll help in organizing these as well. But it'll be an awesome way for those of you, us that are out there already thinking about how to do this, contributing to TATPD, to be able to share curriculum modules, TPD assignments, evidence-based teaching resources as well, but anything and all things that might be helped in TA training. And that way, people don't have to reinvent the wheel. And there's now kind of one central hub where people could go and get these things. And also an opportunity for people to contribute to this professionally and get credit for their work through this structure as well. So good things to come with that as well. And then the next slide, and I hesitated quite a bit on whether to even show this, but I think it's important to show kind of the history for 2, maybe 3 years now. The Executive Council has really been exploring thoroughly, painstakingly, all the different options of moving forward. Right now, we're what's the term? I'm blanking on it. We are a
In perilous legal territory, I think, is the official legal
yes,
term.
we are an unincorporated association, but with our size and growth, right, there are questions about liability, there are questions about finances, which is really great as well. And so I throw this on just to show in the past couple of years, the executive committee has thoroughly explored each of these options, and there are going to be recommendations coming out as well. And we want your voice as BioTap members and opinions on this, but we also want to be fully transparent and be able to rationalize and justify the reasons we chose certain paths over the other. And there are still some looming questions. And so I think you can expect in this coming year to have some opportunity to provide some feedback on the direction that we're taking. But just know that this has been under thought for quite some time. We've considered a lot of different options. There's a huge table on the pros and cons of each of them, and even why we think that this is an important step to take for our BioTap organization in the near future. So with that, I'll wrap up again. I just am incredibly humbled, excited to be your president for the coming year. I also expect to be held fully accountable by all of you members and know that the line of communication will always be open for me. And please, if there's anything you think that we can ever do that we're not doing or that I can do, would love and appreciate that feedback. So thank you all.
Okay, so that brings us over to our upcoming election cycle for the next year. So BioTap operates on a calendar year, so we're looking ahead to 2026 now. We are sort of an unincorporated organization here, and we've been operating like a sort of a disciplinary society, and that's very much was the sort of origins of Biotap in a more formal sense. And so we do have bylaws, and you can really geek out if you're one of those people who likes to geek out on organizational bylaws. You can see sort of our operating procedures there. But as that is very sort of nuanced, we really just wanted to hit a couple essential highlights to set up for the ways that you all could potentially, if you're interested, and we'd love to have you be getting even more involved in the leadership and the running of Biotap as an organization. So I'll very briefly touch on the different committees, the executive committee and our standing committees, and the officers that serve on those, and then we'll look ahead to our openings that we have for our upcoming year and ways to nominate yourself or your colleagues. So Biotap is governed by sort of the executive committee, which is composed of a presidency that is in a 3-year term. All of our officers serve in 3-year terms, and in the case of the presidency, that moves through from a president-elect to an acting president to a past president, and I'll hit on those in a second. And we also, along with the presidents, have a treasurer, and our inaugural treasurer there is Stephanie Gutzler from Georgia State University. And then we have 3 of our standing committees, the networking committee, the education committee, and the conference committees. And they nominate they elect their own chair within the first 30 days of the year. And that chair also for each of those standing committees is a part of the executive committee. And that is really key for integrating across our different collaborative efforts and helping to steer the organization. So the executive committee sort of is the sum of all of our Biotap leadership. And as I mentioned, all officers serve in a 3-year term, and those committee chairs are elected by the committee in every single year. And so to hone in a little bit on the different positions, and then we'll get to our standing committees. The acting president is Josh Reid this year, as you know, and it's in your 2nd year of your presidency. And you are sort of the main mover and shaker of Biotap for that individual year. You're presiding over the executive committee, you're scheduling those meetings, you're coordinating amongst the different members of leadership, like the standing committees, kind of ensuring compliance. It sounds very formal when you put it that way, but just making sure that we're operating under the bylaws in the ways that the organization was envisioned when we crafted those. And you're kind of the primary caretaker of Biotap for that year. And then we have a past president. That's the position that I'm serving in. We had Beth Schuessler serving in that for a couple of years before that as well. And you're there to sort of be the institutional memory to a degree, that historical context, sort of the ambassador between the prior executive committees and the current one. You're there for some guidance. You bring your infinite wisdom and sagacity, I think it's safe to say, right, Caleb and Josh, to sort of be there as a resource. And one of the most actionable items there is you oversee the elections process, hence why you're hearing from me right now. And then we have Caleb Heinrich, for example, in 2025, serving in the role of the president-elect. It's your first year as a president. You're kind of onboarding, offering that fresh perspective, being able to bring in your perspective is really important. You're there to kind of help curate and take some minutes, et cetera. And then in the executive committee positions, we have a treasurer as well. So we have a chief fiscal officer who is presiding over our total of, well, $0 right now. However, this Dr. Gutzler has been really key in the kind of current phase of Biotap and imagining future funding opportunities, has identified a really impressive list of very compelling candidate grants that we could be pursuing in the future, and exploring some of these legal and financial directions as well. Yes, doing a just incredible job of being the chief fiscal officer of our non-existent funds right now. So all of that is to say, every year we have a president-elect that is an opening, right? Because we have that 3-year term and the presidents can sort of move through that. And so every year we're going to be bringing in new perspectives to the president-elect. And so we have an opening in this year, and we would love to have you all be helping to steer Biotap for the coming few years or beyond. And then, of course, we have the standing committees as well. We have a networking committee, an education committee, and a conference committee. And so the goals of the networking committee is to, as it sounds, enhance communication and collaboration among the overall Biotap network. A big part of that network is our listserv, our Google group, and the website, and a longer-term goal of trying to foster and grow our reach. Foster that network and grow our reach. The education committee is also there to sort of advocate for the value of TA, teaching professional development. So we use that acronym all the time here in Biotap, but teaching assistant, teaching professional development. key in trying to strategize and provide resources and support for TPD practitioners, but also the research on TA TPD, and helping to disseminate effective practices throughout the network. And then the conference committee has some narrower scope in terms of its duties, but really, really essential. In fact, this has really kind of been the heart and soul of BioTap is our annual conference. And so a major shout out to our conference committee for organizing this. And I know we're just getting started here, but bringing it just to us every year without a hitch, basically. And so major shout out as well, because they're responsible for planning and running this annual BioTap conference. And it's a lot of work there on the conference committee. So in terms of our service that our officers that we've had for 2025 and what we're looking to recruit for next year. On the networking committee, that's been Carrie Hodge, Cody Smith, and Dan Johnson has been chairing that. And you can see Dan's got a year left on his term. Carrie and Cody will be rolling off of that. I'll just say this now because I'm going to show this for all of our committee members. Just because you're rolling off a committee doesn't mean you can't roll back on again. So you're absolutely welcome to volunteer for another 3 more years of service if you want to keep contributing to that mission of that committee, or also think about other ways and other positions you maybe want to be participating in the leadership of BioTap. The Education Committee has been chaired by Kimberly Bell and Petra Kronsfelder, the chair and vice chair there, both of whom are at the end of their 3-year terms or their appointed terms, and will be rolling off. Are welcome to roll back on again, as mentioned. Megan Cole, Jeff Olimpo, Anna Madrano, and Jackie Shea have also been on that education committee. And then the conference committee, as you know, Ash Heim has been chairing that, and Katie Dixie, both of whom will be rolling off. And we have Amy Keegi and Melody Danley on that committee, on the conference committee as well, each with a year or 2 years left on there. So, and yeah, Dan is going to be back on the networking committee and happy to be recruiting. So a great resource, real key member of BioTap here too. So don't hesitate to take up Dan on his offer there and reach out via the chat. So what positions are we filling for the president-elect? We need a new president-elect. And so anybody's welcome to apply to this and help join the executive committee and steer BioTap. Again, a 3-year term there. Sadly, I have come to the end of our treasurer's term, so our treasurer is welcome to throw her name back into that hat, or if anybody else is feeling like they want to have a say in this sort of legal status question and thinking about some of the finances and maybe future funding opportunities, we do have an opening on the treasurer position here. And then we have a couple openings on our committees as well. We're looking for 2 more for the networking committee, 1 more for the education committee, and 3 more for the conference committee, since we've had a couple roll-offs there. So as I've already said it, I really, really just want to stress this. Just because you've come to maybe the end of your term and you might be rolling off, you are more than welcome. In fact, we would love for you to still be contributing and helping to steer BioTap as an organization. So feel free to nominate yourself. Feel free to nominate your colleagues for any of these positions that you think, hey, this person would be really good for that kind of thing. What we'll do from there is then reach out to anybody who has been nominated and say, do you agree to be nominated for this? So you have an opportunity to say, you know what, I have a lot on my plate. I love BioTap, but I can't take that on right now. Completely understandable. So just because you're nominated, you'll have a chance to have some say. So that brings us to well, some of the points I've already kind of made. Any member of BioTap can be nominated. We don't have any dues. What we mean by a member is you're just a part of our BioTap Google group so that we can keep in touch and you can be a member of the community there. Self-nominations are great. Don't be ashamed. If you want to step up and take some leadership in BioTap, that's what we're looking for. So please feel free to put your own name into the hat. I'm gonna link in the chat once I'm screen sharing right now. So I'll drop in the nomination form into the chat. All of this will go out fairly as succinctly as I can. How about that? Into an announcement to the community as well, with just the step-by-steps of how the elections are going to work and the form to nominate people out to the listserv. So that's all coming as well. But it's very brief. It's just kind of who's the nominee, what's their title, what's their institution, what's their email, so that we can reach out to them. We're going to ask that nominations are going to be due. We've got a couple weeks due, midnight, November 17th, in some time zone. Just get them in by the 7th. I think I said 17th, but November 7th. And voting by members, we're going to have a little bit of a turnaround window there so that we can just reach out to the people who've been nominated. Do you agree to show up on the ballot, basically, and to serve if you've been elected? And then we'll vote for a couple weeks as well, from the 12th to the 26th. People who've sort of been elected by the elections process will be notified at the beginning of the month, essentially, and that gives us a month to kind of transition into looking ahead to our next year of service. And that is, again, on a calendar year. That starts up on the 1st, of course, and then we have a kind of an important 30 days when the conferences we ask that you, or excuse me, the committees we ask that you all meet, the standing committees, and elect a chair and a vice chair within that first 30-day window. And you're allowed to sort of appoint your own leadership from within your committee. So that is our sort of overview of some of the governance side and some of our openings. On behalf of the entire executive committee and frankly all of Biotap, just thank you all so much. I'll drop in that link to the nominations for the elections process into the chat. And again, that will be forthcoming in an email. And in the meantime, I think, is Josh still with us, or did he had a sort of an emergency meeting pop up? Whoops. Looks like maybe he's not. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing for a second because we also wanted to take some time, and yes, sadly Josh had to run um, for an emergency meeting, but let me drop this into the chat nominations form. We also, rather than just talk at you forever for this hour, wanted to have some time to have a little bit of community building, and I know Caleb and Josh kind of set this up. So there's that. What am I doing? Slideshow, and I'll bring this back up. And this is meant to be pretty informal. And Caleb, do you want to lead the way here, or how do you want to do this?
I can. Are there,
Okay,
did Josh make
we'll see that,
slides?
right? Yep, we got it. Should be
Yeah,
showing right
I
now.
know he
Yep.
sent some questions in. So, but
Caleb,
yeah,
can I interrupt for a
essentially,
second? Do
yes,
you want me to not record this part or
that's
record
I
fine.
it?
think maybe
We,
keep recording and we can always cut it out for anything that gets posted to the website, right? But if we have any just brilliant ideas that come up, it might be helpful to have as a record. So maybe we'll
Okay,
cut it out
cool.
for the ultimate thing that's published, if that's
I will
okay.
keep it going.
Okay. How about this? I'd rather see you all. I'm gonna not share and I'm gonna just drop these into the chat.
yeah, we have the questions. Yeah. So the first one, what is one word that describes your experience working with TAs or TPD this year, 2024, 2025 academic year? And since I think we've got about 15 people here, feel free to just shout it out. We don't need to use the chat unless it gets too crazy. And I know that's a tough question. Just one word. Sorry, that's all you get. Seeing anxiety,
Nice.
optimistic, time constraints, busy, engaged, insightful, exciting.
Seen quite a mix of emotions showing up, which is absolutely to be expected. It's good to see some of that real positivity shining through amongst maybe some of the challenges.
Impressed. I like impressed.
Yeah. Different times, a feeling, a sense of maybe the different times that we're in legislatively, culturally, politically, rewarding. Love it. Second that one. It's one of the most fun and rewarding parts of my job personally. And this doesn't all have to be through the chat either. Are there experiences that people have been having that they want to elaborate on, share? Part of this inspiration for this was to just have some time to, again, do a little community building. We've got other prompts if you want to jump to that, but anything people want to elaborate on there or share?
I'll jump in. Can everybody hear me? Cool. I put optimism down there. I'm sorry, I keep looking up. I have my big TV with you guys up on the screen above my computer, so that's why I keep looking up here. But um, we have new leadership in my department, and they are currently thinking about our strategic planning, and one of their sort of pillars for the strategic plan as we move forward at the department level is for TA professional development, sort of writ large, that would include teaching. So I'm really excited to work with my leadership in developing sort of these really high quality programs over the next couple of years, when it seems like there's a priority and an impetus. So that's why I'm super optimistic, despite all the other things going on in in the world right now. Katrina, can you say more? Sorry, I saw your post.
Yeah.
Hi, hi. Yeah, so I made some changes to some course policies with how students were submitting some notes and assignments, and the idea was that our TAs were supposed to be kind of reviewing the notes students were taking during our lab sessions, but they had a lot to do and they have a lot of students, and so they had said, you know, it would be really nice if we could see some of these, later, if we didn't have to do this right in the moment. And so, so we developed a system where students then were uploading images of their notes. Fantastic, right? No. Um, it's now it's now sort of been uh, difficult to, like, logistically difficult to get them uploaded and like get that messaging across that yes, this is something you're going to upload, or they upload it as an assignment when that is a separate thing, or yeah, totally regret it. I'm definitely going back next semester and considering what I need to do for the rest of this semester. I hate it. I hate it.
Don't you hate when that happens? When you you make a change to something and you're like, this is gonna be great. And then it starts rolling and you're like, this was not great.
It's totally not great.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, me too.
But maybe
Yeah.
we can spin it in a positive way, like we would for our students, right? We talk a lot about the fear of failure in science and science education, and it really is how you learn and how you grow, and just think of it as an iterative. Not that you're not
Yeah.
already doing so, but it's just another, you try things out and some things work and some things don't, and then you're going to iterate and it's going to be even better next time around, you know?
Yeah. Well, I did also say that I'm impressed, and I'm really impressed with my crew of GTAs this year. They're really on it. But when it comes to this, that is with these notes, they're not supposed to be this on it. It's so I need them to walk it back a little bit, and I think that's going to come up at our next meeting. Yeah.
Well, maybe this is a good segue, and we can keep rolling right naturally along with the conversation. But one of the other things we wanted to see what people were thinking about is what's the biggest challenge you face when either researching or thinking about or approaching or supporting your TAs in the current year here. And feel free, you know, you can use the chat, but feel free to just jump in too. This is meant to be real kind of informal and communicative.
I say I'm assuming a lot of I'm actually not teaching this semester because of my position. But I am assuming that a lot of institutions are probably or departments are maybe their TAs are going to be severely overworked because they don't have as many TA lines. And maybe the people that are in charge of the TAs are kind of organizing them are not really going to be aware of that until the TAs get really overly stressed and like cannot deal with it with everything else going on. That was kind of the first thing that came to my mind is because there's a lot of departments are having fewer TA lines available because of everything happening, that there may be some increased anxiety and stress related to GTA positions.
Yes, I would say we're already kind of seeing that at my institution. And we have tried to fill in the gap by bringing in more undergraduates, but that has also been a challenge for us as far as like professional development wise, and increasing their buy-in, because they have obviously very different goals from like a graduate student or a contractor.
Stephanie, can you clarify yours? I get so stuck reading the chat and then I want to know more.
This is going to be part of what Adam's going to edit out later. But so, okay. So if I think about this, there's a couple of different things going on. Like my first instinct with this question, okay, sorry, Dan will edit it out. My first reaction to this question about biggest challenge is sort of like there are so many moving parts right now. like I think about the idea of the reduction of TA lines, for instance, that Ash brought up. I'm thinking about, even budgets, and, there was an article in the Chronicle earlier today about, layoffs and all of that. And we're doing everything we can to avoid that. So some of it really comes down to thinking about really intentionally our instructional capacities and how to maintain pedagogical integrity, if capacities, do start to creep up a bit, which also means we're thinking about, okay, is it the best thing then to have a teaching assistant be a primary instructor of record, for example? And if not, then how are we restructuring faculty workload in order to make sure that we're optimizing that instructional efficiency? And so this all comes down to a lot of fiscal analyses we're doing right now to think about how much it costs to just have our programs go, to offer our programs, to offer our courses. I don't know what the landscape is like across all of the institutions, but, in thinking about what courses are our most expensive faculty teaching? Are they teaching very small graduate level seminars? I see the smiles, and so I know the answer to that. As opposed to, when we're thinking about all of the things we talked about in, that keynote workshop, when we're thinking about inclusion and, how to retain students, how to make sure our GTAs are trained really well, and receiving this professional development. We're really thinking a lot about that. So I'm very excited. I will say this, with all of these different challenges going on and all of the stress of it, and Grant, I'm really encouraged to hear that your leadership is thinking about this as a priority at the highest level, because our leadership has been too. GTAs, graduate student training, professional development as part of the educational landscape of our institution is in our strategic plan. And it's something that in my role right now in the dean's office, we have a new dean that just started a few months ago, and he is like, Stephanie, just build it. And so it's very exciting. In fact, last week I received an invitation to go to a Student Success Institute in February with a couple of people from the university level. And it really is like part of that institute is how we're focusing on training the graduate students that will be teaching our undergraduates. And so I see so much potential and energy behind it. It's just a matter of making sure that we don't go broke and our faculty don't leave because I changed the way that they're doing their jobs. So there's a balance of all of that, but it's like it's stressful and daunting. And so like the challenge part of it is just kind of like, where do you even flip and start sometimes? But yeah, it's really exciting.
Another one I saw in the chat kind of related to all of this conversation is the increasing role of undergraduate TAs, and undergraduates is a bigger and bigger part of the instructional mission. Is seemingly increasing, and I think there's some evidence out there that they really are increasing. And totally anecdotally, on a more personal level, after years and years of having a really well-oiled machine here for our TAs and our introductory biology, because of the changing landscape of the economics of higher education, we've had to just fundamentally restructure our entire organization. So now we have we always had kind of mentor TAs and then lead and assist TAs, and it was all graduate though. So now we're still having multiple tiers of graduate TAs, but all of them are really going to largely be overseeing undergraduate TAs who are playing a really big role in the instruction of the lab sections as well. We've had like a learning assistant program, some degree of like teaching interns on a smaller scale that we're usually pairing up with those couple of TAs, graduate TAs who'd been in the room, but now there's going to be a graduate TA in the room and one or two undergraduate TAs. And so the ecosystem of the the instructional community has changed a lot. And right now our teaching professional development for them, because of the historical sort of just legacy is totally fractured. So the undergraduates are like off doing their own thing, getting their own pedagogy training, at least some of them. We have like 2 tiers of undergraduate TAs too. And we have our TAs off doing their thing, getting an hour a week of professional development. And in some ways that's good, but in some ways it'd be great if we could just get them all in that same room and think about what makes for good teaching and learning. And so it's just a totally changed landscape. And in those times of change, you're going to have to kind of adapt and try things out. And so we're having a year of transition here of like, is this going to work? Is this feasible at all? So it just goes to show how all these different levels of stuff kind of impact one another. You know, the economics and the recruitment and all that show up in who are you teaching today and what should you focus on? Other challenges people are running into? We've got one more question for you, but this is a big one. I don't know. What else is on folks' mind?
This is Laura. I'm cameraless. The big one I'm facing right now is morale among my GTAs. They seem to really like what they're doing. Like they're all very excited to be teaching. They seem to always really like that. But in my 5 years I've been in my position, and I don't know if it's like a post-COVID thing, but they're just really like the students' general apathy to being in college and what they're doing and probably what their future looks like makes them really Debbie Downers in a way in lab, which is kind of like killing the morale of my TAs from that aspect. Does that make sense? So every week there's a big, just like we have our weekly meetings and it's just trying to find ways to encourage the TAs to try and encourage their students and not get frustrated that they don't read anything. And I don't know, I could pontificate forever on that, but that's kind of morale is probably my big challenge right now.
Did you say how long has the program been existing? Like
Do
how
you
long have you
mean,
been doing the TPD for them? Is this like a brand new requirement which can impact morale? Is it more the
oh,
state of everything else?
sorry. Yeah. So I just stumbled in. I'm a brand new to this. I've just been in my role for 5 years and I think it was new that I did a graduate student teaching thing at all, and that's kind of evolved and tried to get better every year. And so I just say over my 5 years, I'm seeing the students get, especially TAs that I've had the whole 5 years, right? Like we have some doctorate students that started the same time I did essentially. And they're just kind of because the undergrads seem to be a little bit more apathetic to everything. And then that's kind of, I guess that's what I meant by, I don't know if I'm being clear.
Yeah. Other folks, are you running into similar challenges with morale? This resonated a lot with my last year, but you all heard from me lots already. So are other people encountering this, have encountered it, things that have worked for them?
Well, I have an observation from this semester that we have pre-lab quizzes and post-lab quizzes for the lab, and the pre-lab quizzes are low, like I haven't seen this before. So this is, the students are not engaged with the material in the way that they should, even though we have a lecture associated with the lab. So I think this is a clear observation.
I also wonder if faculty morale is also low because of everything going on and it's bleeding into our
Probably.
classes and training programs, things like that.
Probably try to be like optimistic and positive, but it's really hard every day when you're just like, well, what are we gonna do? So I feel that.
I think
Yeah.
there's some fear though too. Like it's one thing to kind of feel the absence of optimism, but it's another thing to really worry about job security. It's, something to worry about. Like I don't know if I think there's some states doing this. So we're a state where just recently we are now mandated to have all of our syllabi publicly available. And that will be expanding to faculty CVs in the coming year. So, as you can imagine, like in a lot of disciplines, like even biology, like people are like, oh, STEM, like not a big deal. I teach hormones and behavior, so it's like pretty much in nearly anything, you can find threads of something that might fall under potentially more sensitive topics. And so I think there's a lot of anxiety around that for faculty. And I mean, rightfully so. And sometimes we don't even have the answers for them in terms of how to, like how to navigate it. So, doing our best.
We've been able to kind of take advantage of the changing landscape with the funding and all by I'm at an R1 school, and over 90% of our graduate TAs will go off and do research. And now with the changing landscape, they're facing the real possibility that that might not be what happens. And where they had not been thinking about academia and teaching, well, now's a great time to really tune in to your TA training, because well, you should have all the options ahead of you that you need. Diversify yourself a bit, because you might find yourself going in that direction for a short period of time or a long period. Regardless, it's to your benefit to tune in and get professionally developed in a way that you can at least speak competently about these matters in a way that doesn't sound like you're faking it, that you can genuinely do that. And there have been many TAs that are like, oh, I guess I ought to do that. Like, yeah, I think so.
Well, Christine, I can speak to that. We're actually in the process of, excuse me, hiring two teaching faculty. And in looking through, and I'm on the committee, and in looking at applications, one of the things I've noticed is that there's a very clear separation between people who know how to speak the language of education, STEM education, and those who don't. And I'll give you one guess which pile the non-speakers end up in. So it's it's definitely something that's already trickling into the way we look at hiring. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
Well, again, we can keep the conversation flowing naturally, but we're kind of coming to the end of our stretch. I don't know, Ash, if you wanted to build in any like a little bit of a break for before the Ed committee, but maybe I'll throw this out there and we can see where things land, because our last question that we were really thinking of and wanted some input from the community is just thinking about the multi-institutional nature of BioTap, even the international nature of BioTap actually as in terms of as a group. And so what are common barriers to collaboration across institutions or programs? What are your perceived barriers that maybe BioTap ought to be thinking about with respect to the multi-institution and multinational nature of the group? And how could we overcome them? Are there ways that we can be thinking about our collaborations a little differently that could make us that much more effective and supportive as a community? Thoughts on that? Grant just turned it right back around on us. I see what you did there. I mean, happy to pontificate all day, but that's also not quite what I imagined for this time and probably what any of you all want. Caleb, feel free as well, but like, and we can chime in, but do y'all have thoughts on this first, maybe?
I understand. I wasn't trying to throw it right back at you, but
I know how
I'm
you
curious
roll,
to
Grant. It's
answer that
okay.
question at some point, but I do want to make sure other folks have a chance to chime in too. So I appreciate you doing that. I know that one of the things that is challenging to me personally is that to do really good, deep thinking about these ideas often requires being in a room with people for extended amount of time, right? And so as much as I love touching base during this conference and having these conversations for 30 minutes when we're all sitting on screens, it just doesn't generate the same type of like quality conversations that being in a room with folks for a day generates. And so, and that's a challenge, right? There's more of it, and I think more of a challenge in that we have limited funding to travel, and a lot of our members may not be at institutions that provide them with significant funding, or they may be non-tenure track folks or staff that don't have travel money, or all these issues that come into play to get these folks in the room having this conversation. Agree, Caleb. Yeah, and having a beer to stimulate the thinking.
I think my short answer to that is I mean, it's related, but the designated time to do this stuff, right? People are pulled so thin anymore. And I think most biotappers are a special breed anyway, that they're already pulled so thin and they're always willing to do things that benefit for zero or no credit. And so I think, if there's a way that Biotap can provide that backing behind, like, hey, we're legit here. We've got NSF money that's come through here. These people are on our team and they're helping with this. They need to be recognized. You need to see what they're doing and why it's important. And if we can pump that stuff out to administrators and department chairs, I hope that could go a long way in providing some kind of release or opportunity to be able to engage in this more. Believers, yeah.
Well, one of the things I am thinking about with respect to this, maybe this is a good time for this, is just also recognizing the triumphs of Biotap already. We've given all these challenges. It's really incredible what you all, the original kind of generation of Biotap PIs through a research coordination network grant, um, uh, were able to do, and look at what Biotap has become despite all of the challenges of operating across all these different institutions. I think one of the things that we can be thinking about, and Caleb hit on this in his section earlier, is maybe even just thinking about ways that we're strategically utilizing that network even a little bit more. I know many of us are kind of apprehensive of the listserv burnout and the email just constant deluge, and so a little mindful of that. But we are there as a network, and so how can we be just keeping that going and keeping that momentum?
And I think the other thing I'm hearing a lot of people say in this conversation is sort of that I don't think I've thought about a lot is sort of innovating, right? We've had these conversations, um, for those who are old timers like myself who've been around for a while, have been thinking about this stuff. I'm just messing with Stephanie now. Um, uh, I was called a grandfather by her earlier, and one of my little spies informed me when I was not here earlier that I was called the grandfather of
I
biotech.
corrected, to be fair, but if I do the math, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know, Grant.
No, but I mean, but besides all that, but like thinking about the way things are changing, right? Like our students are changing, our ecos. I liked how Adam said that the sort of ecosystem that we're working in is changing, and better understanding that allows us opportunities to innovate and to be optimistic in how we can grow and think about TA training. I think is not a challenge, but a wonderful opportunity, and can grow this group and bring in folks who are thinking in new and innovative ways about these issues, who may not be, stuck in their old thinking, like an old man like me.
So I'm thinking about what I'm hearing you say is going on at Middle Tennessee and what's going on at GSU. And, Adam, you were talking about what's going on at OSU in terms of some of the restructuring and things like that. I think obviously, we're critically important to this work, but I'm also wondering, like, is there any way to facilitate even those leaders engaging other leaders about the importance of this too? So they're sort of, I mean, I don't know if you all know my president, but he is very charismatic and very I mean, if you put him in a room to talk about GTA training, I feel like everyone would be like, that makes perfect sense. That is the best thing we've ever heard. Everybody should be doing this. So, I mean, I'd have to prep him, but I mean, he is very, very in favor of it and has sort of set up a culture here in the last 3 to 4 years, however long he's been here, that really supports that type of work. So there's a lot of it going on. And I just wonder, if having people that are in those types of positions talking to other people in those types of positions could move the needle as well. And then the other piece, so that's sort of one thing, yes, like an admin network type thing. And then there's the other piece of thinking about in some of these pockets where we have really supportive leadership, even if gosh darn it, like if I only have until December, I need to find us some money somewhere. But in thinking about, I don't know, like having maybe a little regional meeting, or if there's a way to sort of enlist our institutions to maybe support some PD funds to get people, like, I mean, if everybody came here, or, and, you know, Grant, I don't want to speak for MTSU, but like I know for here, like if people wanted to come have a retreat here, we have the space. I mean, we could use the space within my college without a problem. Like it wouldn't cost us anything. And so it would just be a matter of like trying to figure out how to fund you know, some of that time for people basically. But I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking about like, how do we make something work where we get people together in that really intentional way?
I mean, I like what Caleb mentioned earlier about, you know, meetups, being more intentional about some meetups. And even if we can get, you know, people in the room that go to NABT, that go to ABLE, that go to SABRE, that go to, you know, some of these meetings that we go to, even if we can get folks sitting down for an hour and yes, having some fellowship and yes, you know, enjoying each other's company like we do, but also maybe spitballing some ideas on how to move forward with some of these initiatives, could be productive, right? It's not, you know, a whole day meeting, but it's a start.
Okay, well, that maybe is a good segue because these missions, these comments actually align quite a lot with the mission of the Education Committee, and we're about to hear from them. Should we give maybe a 2-3 minute break for folks? What do you think, Ash? Just sort of a quick bio break or whatever, and we can reconvene in a few
Yeah,
minutes.
I feel like because we've been meeting for an
Yeah,
hour, so
it's been a
maybe
while.
we can take a few minutes and we'll start again at 4.